Welcome, Neogenians, to Dawn of the New Earth. Today we're talking about the 144,000, the chosen ones, and New Earth. What are these concepts, and can you become one? So this is something that we've explored before, but we're going to take a look at this in more detail because it's very popular in New Age circles, this idea of the 144,000, the chosen ones, what they actually are, and can you become one? I've had some people in the chat even say that they were worried, like, oh man, I don't know if I can become one of these people. I don't think I can. We're going to be exploring exactly what that means. And in particular, we're going to be taking a look at a specific download about the 144,000 and what a download is, what that even means, what the 144,000 is. We're going to be exploring that right now and seeing how you can become one of the 144,000. Now, as always, before we get started, make sure that you hit like. It helps a lot. My channel is about spreading awareness, spreading consciousness to create a new earth. And when you hit the like button, it tells the algorithm to spread this around. And it helps out a lot. I appreciate it. I also want to remind you, you can find this on Spotify. Look up my podcast, Dawn of the New Earth. And of course, my new book is available right now, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind. It's available on Amazon. Link is in the description of this video. My second book, Meta-Rationalism, The New Science of Mind, is available for pre-order right now. That will be available July 11th. Let's see. All right, my friends, let's get right into it. We're talking about the 144,000, the New Earth, how to become one of them. We're going to be exploring these downloads, seeing if they hold water. Of course, as always, we're going to be looking at this with logic and reason, because if you try and look at this elsewhere, you're probably not going to find much logic and reason. So let's explore these ideas. First of all, what are the 144,000? Where does this idea come from? So the idea of the 144,000 comes from, guess what? The Bible. You know me, I'm not a really huge fan of the Bible. If you didn't know, I grew up as a Christian. I was a Christian for a long time, many years. And not a huge fan of the Bible, but the 144,000 is an idea that comes from the Bible, specifically the book of Revelation. And the book of Revelation is a very strange book. And the New Testament and Old Testament are very different from each other. The Old Testament is full of war and bloodshed and violence and all sorts of just atrocities. Whereas the New Testament is a lot more focused on love and acceptance. Except for Revelation, the final book in the New Testament seems like something that you would find in the Old Testament. It's very bloody, very violent. Doesn't seem to be very close to what Jesus was talking about. So we'll actually probably do a video on the book of Revelation at some point. But the idea of the 144,000 comes from the book of Revelation. And the book of Revelation is all about the end times, the apocalypse, or Armageddon. And so the Christian view of the end times is not very positive. It's very destructive. And in Revelation, it talks about the 144,000. What is Revelation even about, really? Well, it's this intuition that human beings have been picking up throughout history. You have Christians that have picked it up through the book, through the idea of Revelations and the end times. In the New Age community, you have the idea of the Age of Aquarius. In occultism, you have the idea of the Eon of Horus. And of course, this is what we talk about in terms of the Neogenian, or the new beginning. And it's the idea or intuition that Earth is going through a transitory phase, a transition. And this is where the idea of New Earth comes in, which we'll be talking about in a moment. But there's this intuition that a change, major, drastic, huge global shift is going to occur. And this has been picked up on in different ways. Like I said, Christianity through the end times, Age of Aquarius through New Age, Eon of Horus through occultism, particularly Thelema. And in our system, the Neogenian, the new beginning. So unfortunately, the Christian interpretation is very negative. Whereas an interpretation like the Age of Aquarius is very positive. The Age of Aquarius talks about a time of connectivity and human beings becoming aware of their divine nature, whereas the book of Revelation focuses on the destructive aspect of it, which, does occur. And the destructive aspect occurs because there are those who want to keep humanity in a low state of awareness. There are those who refuse to step into a new consciousness and are going to be obsessed with keeping reality the way that it is, or keeping things the way that they are right now. And that's not how it works. Existence is all about evolution. It's all about transformation. It's all about growth. We're going to get into all these ideas, but it's important to understand how this connects to the 144,000, because this is coming from a Christian interpretation. We have to remember the 144,000 comes in from a Christian interpretation stemming from the intuition of a global transformation. Okay. So in Revelation, I think it's Revelation 7, it mentions the 144,000 as the servants of God. Okay. So it says the 144,000 are the servants of God, sealed from all the tribes of Israel. So basically what it is it's the 12,000 people from each of the 12 tribes, adding up to 144,000. So then in Revelation, I believe 14, it describes these 144,000 as standing with the Lamb, or Jesus, on Mount Zion. So they are depicted as the pure, devoted followers, those who have aligned themselves with Christ, who have been redeemed. So they're traditionally thought of as a group in terms of Christianity, where this idea stems from. The 144,000 are a group chosen for God, chosen by God for a special mission during the end times, during this global transitory phase. So they're viewed as faithful believers. Some people think it's symbolic, some people think it's literal. And these 144,000 are going to play a critical role in the end times and the coming of God's kingdom on earth. All right, so it's important to understand the origin of where this comes from, because this is hitting on very archetypal themes that we are experiencing right now. We are experiencing a transitory period. Yes. There's a lot of war and destruction because of this. Yes. There are those who exist on earth who are here to help transition to a new earth. Yes. The coming of God's kingdom on earth is representative or metaphorical for that new earth. Okay, so you're seeing how these ideas are rooted in what we're experiencing right now, but in a symbolic and metaphorical way. Okay, so let's talk about the New Age now, because the New Age has really latched onto this idea. You're going to hear this a lot in the New Age system about the 144,000, the chosen ones, the starseeds, the light workers. Okay, so in the New Age view, the 144,000 are seen as spiritually awakened individuals that have a mission. And this mission is to help humanity and Earth to ascend to a higher state of consciousness. And they're often called light workers or starseeds, people who have advanced spiritual knowledge and abilities. Those who are starseeds are sometimes even considered to be from, or not even often considered to be from, other dimensions or other planets or other worlds. And they're thought to be key players in Earth's transition to what's called the new Earth. And so what is the new Earth exactly? We'll talk about that in a moment, because New Age has different interpretations for this, but we'll be explaining this. And anyway, their role basically is to help raise humanity's collective vibration. And there's a lot of ideas tied into this, things like DNA activation and chosen ones unlocking special secret abilities and all these wild claims. So anyways, in a nutshell, the New Age view is emphasizing unity and oneness and sees the 144,000 as guides helping humanity realize its divine nature and interconnected existence. So that's fine. That's all well and good, but we have to be very careful about how this is described and how we understand what the 144,000 actually are. So we have to remember, just first of all, we have to remember where it comes from. It comes from the Bible. Already, not a super huge fan of that, but it comes from the Bible. And that's not to say that everything in the Bible is terrible. I like a lot of what Jesus had to say. What Jesus had to say was really great. Revelation starts to get very much away from that. But anyway, It starts in the Bible describing a group of God's faithful servants. But the New Age interpretation is a lot more broad. It sees the 144,000 as enlightened individuals, light workers, starseeds, with a mission to elevate humanity's consciousness and create a new earth. So that is sort of just the background here of what the 144,000 are. But what we're going to take a look at particularly is an individual who had a download about the 144,000, the chosen ones, and the new earth. Now, what is a download? A download is a term used in New Age to refer to a receiving of information. Now, how this information is received or how this download occurs is very nebulous. Sometimes people receive it during a meditative state, or a flash of intuition, or they channel a higher being, apparently. But a lot of the times, it's not explicitly said. If you listen to like a lot of New Agers who go, oh, I had a download, usually they just say that. They just said, oh, I had a download that such and such, and they don't really explain more details. Like, what does that mean exactly? Were you in a meditative state? Was it a flash of intuition while you were, mowing the lawn? What does this mean exactly? But that doesn't really matter too much. I just want to put it out there if you're wondering what the heck does download mean. Download is a very, very broad term used in the New Age community to refer to a receiving of information. And I actually don't hate it. I kind of like it. There are certain things about New Age that I think are interesting because they're very intuitive and they hit on ideas that are close to reality often. Oftentimes not, because they take metaphorical things to be literal. But anyway, long story short, I like the word download. I don't hate it. I think it's cool. But so I'm going to be reading some excerpts from an article on medium.com. Okay. It's an excerpt on medium.com. And let me just show you real quick. It's called I Received a Download About the Chosen 144,000 and the New Earth. And this is by Spirit and Science. So if you enjoy some of the excerpts that we read today, go over to medium.com, give Spirit and Science a follow, give them some claps. That's the medium.com version of likes. And yeah, I like, because what I'm going to actually show is I actually like a lot of the conclusions or information this person is sharing. And I think it's kind of cool that their name is Spirit and Science, because while I'm going to show that this needs to be examined a lot more rationally and more logically and rigorously, they are headed in the right direction. So let's talk about this. So Spirit and Science says, I received a download recently while my partner, my divine counterpart, who had also received the same download previously, as well as the second iteration concurrently with my download. Now that's very interesting. Personally, I would like to know a little more, right? If you say you received a download, what does that mean exactly? Were you in a meditative state? Were you tripping? Were you channeling? What exactly does that mean? It doesn't matter too much because we can examine the information itself. And then also my partner, my divine counterpart, I'd imagine that they mean like their actual partner in the person that they are partners with. So Spirit and Science says, though I have read articles and seen many circulating videos about this group of people, I'm still uncertain exactly what the 144,000 signifies. Then recently I received a massive download. So we're going to talk about this download that they received and examine this logically and rationally. But I want to say that to their credit, what essentially this person is saying is, hey, I'm not even 100% sure what the 144,000 represents, but I received this information and I want to share it with you. So I think that I like the honesty that this person is coming from. They're saying like, hey, I received this. I'm not really sure what some of this means, but I want to share it with you. And I think that that's a lot more intellectually honest than some New Agers who are like, oh yes, I received this information from the ascended masters and this is exactly how reality is 100%. I know it for sure. And you don't know it for sure. We can only know things for sure by examining things with logic and reason. If we don't do that, how do you know it's not a nefarious entity tricking you, telling you lies? You don't. And this is how religions start anyway. Everyone's very confident about the vision they see or the intuition they receive. And that's how religions start. So we just want to make sure that we're examining things with logic and reason. And I like where this individual is coming from by saying, hey, I'm not 100% sure what this means, but I want to share it with you. Okay. So let's see what the download is. First, we are in a simulation that we each volunteered for. This simulation is life on planet Earth as human. Okay, so is this true? Depends what you mean by simulation. If you mean like a video game or a computer, no, that's not the case. We can know logically and rationally that this is not a simulated reality, but that reality is a reality of frequencies, a reality of sinusoidal waves that manifest as the physical world through a Fourier transform. Now, I don't think though that's how this person is using the word simulation. I think that they just mean like a illusory world, I think is what they are meaning, I would assume. And in that sense, it is true that this world is a simulation of sorts if we're using the broad definition. And that this physical world, what we call the holos, is not the real reality. I mean, everything is real, but it's not the necessary ground of existence. The necessary ground of existence, ultimately reality is immaterial, ultimately reality is mental, ultimately reality is mathematical. It's not physical. Physicality is an illusion. So if that's the case, yes, that's correct. This simulation is, and then also we all volunteered for this. So that's one of the things that we have to extrapolate. What do we know? We know that we are individual eternal minds, structures of frequency patterns. We can know this from first principles and deductively reasoning how reality operates through the necessary laws of mathematics. We can understand that we are individual minds. Now, we can understand that this is a process of evolution. And have we consciously volunteered to incarnate on Earth? The thing is that we can't say for sure. Remember, we have to come from this from a logical and rational perspective, or else we're just making stuff up. And that's how religions start. So we can't say for sure that that's the case. What is likely is that for most people, it's an unconscious process. What is likely is that most people don't consciously volunteer. What is likely is that for most people, it's an unconscious process. And the reason why that is likely the case is that we extrapolate from first principles, and then we empirically gain information on how altered states of consciousness work. And when you are in an altered state of consciousness, you are usually not very self-aware. For example, dreaming is an altered state of consciousness. Well, when you are dreaming, you are very rarely aware that you're dreaming unless you're lucid in a dream. If you're on a super powerful trip like DMT, you often completely forget about what you are, where you are, and you're just wrapped. The experience is so intense that you're just going along with the experience. You have very little control over it. So we know that altered experiences or altered states of consciousness are very erratic, and our choices are often driven by other processes rather than our conscious control. So extrapolating from that, it is likely that for most minds, when they are in the death current, which is an altered state of consciousness, they're no longer interfacing with the avatar, it is likely that they are not making a conscious choice, but that it happens unconsciously, like how you follow a pattern in a dream. You're following a dream narrative and you're making choices, but you're making choices in the context of that you believe that the dream is real. Now, it is very possible that there are highly evolved minds that can make the choice. Now, again, this is something that we're extrapolating from first principles by realizing that if you put work into it, for example, you can become lucid in dreams. You can start to have more control over certain trips. So it would stand to reason that highly evolved minds would begin to have more lucid and conscious control in the death current. And then perhaps, yes, it would be a more of a choice. So anyway, there's a lot of these downloads, and I want to go through them faster. So I'm going to try not to spend too much time on each one. But in a nutshell, do we volunteer for this? I would say for the vast majority of people, it is unlikely. It is mostly unconscious for most people. Do some people choose? That's a possibility. But ultimately, can we say for sure? No. And we must be honest about that. We must be honest about because we want to understand metaphysics rationally. In the Neogenian system, that's what meta-rationalism is all about. And there are certain things that we can say with a fair degree of certainty, and there are certain things that are extrapolating and probabilities. And we have to be honest about that because we don't want to start new religions. We want to be able to understand the realm of metaphysics as rigorously and even more rigorously than, say, science understands the physical world. So we have to be firm about that. So let me try and go faster on these. Next part, we are all part of the same pool of consciousness. So it was quite easy for the same consciousness to decide to split into billions of individual souls. So a single consciousness splits into billions of individual souls. Is that true? We are a network mind. We are a mind. So you can see basically what I'm trying to get across here is I'm going to show you how each of these downloads are like intuitively in the right direction. But when you examine them logically and rationally, you have to really get down to the actual details of it, the fine details, because there's a lot of nuances here we have to be clear on. We are not some big amorphous consciousness that divides itself into individual consciousnesses. What we are is a network mind. And so what is a network? Well, we can understand this in terms of like an artificial neural network or a biological neural network. And a biological neural network is your brain. An artificial neural network is AI. How this works is there are individual nodes or neurons that compose the network. So you have individual nodes, individual neurons that form the network. So what reality is a network mind, but it's, instead of having individual nodes, it's a soul network, or what we call a Zetic network, or the Zeta configuration. So we are, or reality is, a singular network mind composed of a multiplicity of individual minds or souls. And these souls can go from a state of identity to multiplicity. So you can go from a state to where everything is operating as though it were one mind, and then you can go to another state of maximum diversity and multiplicity and difference, where it is though everyone is acting independently. But ultimately, underlying everything is still part of the singular network. So we are a network mind composed of a vast multiplicity of souls, or zetas, all exploring this reality through various avatar interfaces. So right direction. In this simulation, we incarnated as billions of unique individuals with specific genetic makeups, unique genotypes and phenotypes, epigenetic differences, different personalities, experiences, etc. Yes, we do so in terms of interfacing with our avatar. We interface with avatars that have these unique characteristics. Just like when we play a video game, we can select a character and pick the different attributes for that character. Now, in this game, we're not actually consciously picking the attributes of our avatar. It's something that's an evolutionary process, or a process of growth. But anyway, main idea correct. All of these billions of souls are simply living on Earth to run through this simulation. The purpose of the simulation is evolution. That is right, to a very high degree. And see, this is why I like their downloads here, is because this is a really good example. We've done a lot of examples of New Age spirituality getting things very wrong. This is a good example of getting things very close to being correct. It's not in the fine details. There might be some differences, but broadly speaking, it's in the right ballpark. So the purpose of the simulation is evolution, or the purpose of physical reality, or the holos, is to evolve and grow physically and mentally through mental evolution. Yes, that's absolutely true. Now, I would just want to say it's also about experience as well. It's about evolution and growth, but also enjoying and experiencing this domain as well. But we don't really consciously realize that until later, because we're more stuck in the mode of survival, because that's the first phase of reality: survive, survive, survive. But then we realize, so what's the meaning of life? The meaning of life is to enjoy life and to understand it. The more we understand life, the better experiences that we can curate for ourselves, because ultimately we are the gods of this reality. And as gods, we create and enjoy our creation. So we want to realize that, yes, reality is about evolution, but it's not about evolution at the expense of quality of life. That's why in the Neogenian system, when we say we want to create a teleocratic planetary civilization, which is a purposeful civilization for the purpose of what? For maximizing the quality of life for every individual. Notice that we don't say for the purpose of progress, because you can have progress, quote unquote progress, at the expense of quality of life. We want to have both. We want to have progress for a purpose to increase or maximize quality of life. So that's important to understand. We want to remember that, yes, evolution is a big part of reality, but we don't want to some people get obsessed with that at the expense of quality of life. And then it's like, well, why are you even living if you're having a miserable time and making everyone else miserable, just so on a technical level you can make advances? So that's important. But broadly speaking, great intuition. To discover who possesses deleterious genes and behaviors that are not conducive to advancing humanity, and to uncover who possesses the abilities that promote a healthier, more harmonious, and love-based way of living. Those who are deleterious are not to ascend or proceed. Deleterious traits means low vibrational, closed hearts, closed minds, living in their ego, and destructive to humanity types of behaviors. Those who are advanced and evolved in consciousness, mind, and spirit are chosen. The chosen will pave the way for a new earth. Okay, so here is the part where we have to be very careful. They're basically saying, because you can get to some dangerous ideas here. And then this is why we have, this is important, because dangerous consequences can occur from misunderstanding these ideas. First of all, they say reality is about evolution. True, but it's not just about evolution. It's also about quality of life, experience. And they're saying that how this works is that those who are low vibrational do not ascend or proceed, and those who are advanced and evolved in consciousness, mind, and spirit are chosen. The chosen will pave the way for a new earth. I'm going to explain this in a minute, but let's just continue a little bit more so we have more context. The testing phase has already been completed. The scales have been weighed, and the chosen are to ascend to the new earth and to contribute to the evolution of humanity. The others who were not chosen are not to proceed. How the elimination of this collective will be done, I don't know, but I do believe it has to do with the split into the new earth. This process sounds harsh, but evolution is a part of life. Natural selection applies to humans too. Peppered moths were able to evolve rapidly within one lifetime. Who's to say that humans can't evolve just as rapidly? And also, we volunteered for this. The process of our evolution is not necessarily an evolution of advantageous physical traits that contribute to the survival of the fittest anymore, but rather an evolution of consciousness and spirituality. Consciousness is evolution. Okay, so here's where we need to be careful. So what the case that is being made is that reality is about evolution, and that we are entering into a phase that's no longer about physical evolution, but about consciousness evolution. This is true, but we always have to remember that it's not just about progress for the sake of progress. It's not just about evolution. It's about maximizing quality of life. And it depends. This is where we get into nuances, like how do we define what evolution is? And I get into details in my books. But the part that gets dangerous here is when you start talking about chosen people. that there are certain people who are low vibrational and essentially need to be eliminated, but there are the chosen ones who are high vibrational and are the ones that will proceed. This can get dangerous because this can result in, and I'm sure this person has no intention of what I'm about to discuss, but this is what can result from thinking in this way. So we already saw what happened when a group of humans believed in this idea, but in terms of physicality. In that, for example, there being I'm trying to choose my words carefully, a master group of people. And there was, World War II occurred because of this, because there was believed that there were certain type of people that were better than others and that other type of people had to be eliminated. So you can see this is a very dangerous idea. Now, of course, this is not being talked about in terms of physicality, but in terms of consciousness. But it can have, imagine something, an atrocity like that, but happening on another level. Imagine a group of like twisted elite that get the idea of, oh, you know what? There are these groups of high vibrational beings. These are the chosen ones. And the rest need to be eliminated because they are low vibrational and they are contributing to the degradation of the earth. So they have to be done away with. So, and I doubt that's what this person means, but we have to be careful because that is what can occur from misunderstanding these things. So what we have to realize is that we are all in a process of evolution. And that they say, oh, the scales have been weighed. It's already been completed. Those who are going to ascend are going to ascend, and the others who are not chosen will be eliminated. No, the scales have not been weighed. It's not like, oh, there's a group of chosen ones, and then there's a group of those who are, no. We are all in the process of evolution. And every single person has the capacity to reach a higher level of consciousness. Every single person has the ability to do that. Now, some won't. Some are too close-minded. But everyone has the potential to reach that. It's not something that is set in stone. So you are and I don't like the word chosen ones, but you have the ability to become one of the chosen ones, metaphorically speaking, by choosing it. When you choose it, you become it. In other words, what defines what a chosen one is? What defines what the 144,000 are? Individuals who choose to help create a new earth. So if you're like, I got this comment from one person. This was by Kathy Bakke. Kathy said, I always remembered thinking, no way I'll be one of the 144,000. And it made me feel sad. Then I thought, well, maybe I'd be taught by one of the 144,000. But do you see that idea? I always remembered thinking that there's no way I'll be one of the 144,000, and it made me feel sad. This is the exact type of thing that we need to get away from and why this idea can be dangerous. Because guess what, Kathy? You absolutely have that ability. You absolutely have that capacity. And you become it and you are it when you simply choose it. It's anyone who decides to help create a new earth, to help the world, help increase the consciousness of humanity. And that begins with increasing your own consciousness. If you're not at the level yet where you feel like you can help others, then it begins with you choosing you choosing yourself, you choosing to help grow in your own consciousness. And you have the ability to do it. You have the power to do it. Just the fact that you're watching this video and are interested in these ideas shows that you are at a level that most people aren't. They could be, but you are beginning to understand that there's more to existence and you have the power to make that choice and make that change. So And so this is a really good example of someone who's in the right ballpark, but we have to be very careful about how we interpret these ideas because they can lead to some very frightening and negative consequences. And this is what I'm trying to avoid here, because religion absolutely divided and destroyed the world. What I'm doing right now, and I mean in my current lifetime, is saying, hey, look, we need to begin understanding our true selves, the true nature of existence, the true nature of reality, logically and rationally, while of course being intuitively connected. But we want to understand it logically and rationally. And what we want to do as well is avoid these ideas that might seem benign and harmless right now, but down the road could manifest as something very dangerous. So let's just continue here. It says this process sounds harsh. I read that part already. Let's see. The process of evolution is not necessarily, wait. Yes, I read that part already. Okay. The chosen are the ones who are to pioneer their way of living and create a new earth, one in which future generations are able to thrive with love-based, high frequency, and advanced ways of being. They are here to pave the way for the next group, the next generation. Yes, that is true, but we have to remember that's us. We have to get away from thinking, this is like thinking about Jesus Christ is going to come from the sky and save everyone. The second coming of Christ. We are the second coming of Christ. Every single one of us can become a Christ, can become one who attains a higher state of consciousness and is helping others to attain a higher state of consciousness. Every single one. We're not meant to be Christians. We are meant to be Christs. And so the chosen or the 144,000 aren't this like secret club, special group of people. It's me and it's you when we make that choice. And that's incredibly important to remember, because we'll have a much better world when people start making the choice to make that, to make a better world, instead of thinking, oh man, I guess I'm not part of the 144,000. I guess I can't make a difference. And like Kathy, feels sad about it. That's shitty. And I'm sorry that you felt sad about that, Kathy. If you're watching this, you absolutely have the power to change the world. Every single one of you has the power to change and transform the world. Let's see. We are to begin evolution now towards a new earth, and along the way, we fulfill our individual roles in the ascension process. We are rewarded, protected, and guided. By the way, what is new earth specifically? So New Age is also very confused about this. Sometimes the new earth is just thought of as like the earth when people start to wake up and attain a new consciousness. And that's how we define the new earth. New earth for us, when we say we're creating the new earth, is about helping humanity reach the next level of consciousness, going from self-awareness to all-awareness and hyper-awareness, so that we can create a global civilization, a teleocratic planetary civilization, where we are here to maximize the quality of life for everyone. It's not about timeline hopping to another world or something. And that's what a lot of New Agers imply, that it's something like that. They're like, oh, Earth is going to split and there's going to be a new like astral Earth, or timelines will split and this will happen or that'll happen. No, that's not what it's about. This is misunderstanding and intuition of a birthing of a new earth because of a new consciousness. In other words, we transform the world. Look at how the world was transformed when self-awareness came on the scene. Before self-awareness, you just had an animalistic world. Guess what? Self-awareness came on the scene. The world changed. There were societies and civilizations and cities and governments and technology. The world utterly transformed. Why? Because of a shift in consciousness. New Earth is about the world utterly transforming, as much as the previous transition, as much from a world that was just dominated by animalistic behavior and environments to cities and states and governments and cultures and technologies. Just as drastically, we will evolve to a new state of the earth. That's what New Earth is. That's what the New Earth is. That's what we're trying to get humanity to. By shifting from self-awareness to all-awareness and hyper-awareness, we will create that new Earth. So it's not about the Earth splitting off or timeline hopping. Now, the idea of there being an astral Earth, that there is a time in the very far future where we achieve a state of holos independence, where we are no longer associated with Earth anymore, and we can create our own domain known as the CFD or collective frequency domain. But that's another topic entirely. That's when we are incredibly advanced, not only in hyper awareness and all awareness, but have combined into a network consciousness and are creating a subnetwork mind, a nexus mind. So that's another topic entirely. But in a nutshell, sticking to basics, New Earth is about shifting consciousness. It's not about timeline hopping or any of that nonsense. So, and I'm not saying this person implies that, but in other places, you see that come up quite a lot. My interpretation of this download is that even if you don't believe in the New Earth or the ascension process, evolution is undeniable. I do believe that we are witnessing an event of rapid evolution in humans. Yes, that is true. We are going through this transitory phase where rapid evolution in terms of consciousness is occurring, but we are the catalysts of that. The more that we create, the more information we spread, the more, just think about like the videos and shorts I make and how many views that gets. And I'm not like, ooh, look at me, I get all these views. I don't care about that. It's about people who are accessing information that could be a spark to raise consciousness. And guess what? Those people then have the ability, you have the ability to go out and make videos and music and art or speeches or meetups or whatever have you, to serve as catalysts to help people awaken to the new beginning, the Neogenian, a new way of understanding reality, a new way of understanding ourselves, a new way of understanding life and existence and everything. Finally, I want to emphasize that the message embedded in this download was something along the lines of, you have a major role to play. In fact, this role is so major that it can tip the scales towards unprecedented changes in humanity's trajectory to the butterfly/ripple effect. However, at the same time, your job is simply to live, thrive, make your impact, and die or ascend. Along the way, you get to experience life as you wish to create it, and you will be supported the entire way. So in the right ballpark, but remember, this applies to everyone, not just a select few. Anyone who chooses it, it applies to. So it applies to you if you so choose it. And the idea of using the butterfly and ripple effect, yes, absolutely. So in the Neogenian system of will forming, I lay out a very specific way or method of that one guides the butterfly effect. And so it's actually called the monarch effect, where we take control of the butterfly effect by consciously realizing that by setting initial conditions, we can make global impact. And this is about creating catalysts, essentially. Catalyst creation to be the sparks of the new beginning, the new world, the new earth. So does the butterfly effect come into play? Yes, absolutely. And that can be harnessed into the monarch effect. So let's see. Yeah. And then so spirit and science can finally says, so us star seeds, light workers, and chosen ones play a pivotal role for evolution of humanity. And yet we are probably the generation that starts the evolution but doesn't get to see it through to the end. Perhaps we can ascend or reincarnate and experience the next generation of the new earth in other ways. Okay, so us star seeds, light workers, and chosen ones play a pivotal role for the evolution of humanity. I don't like the way that is worded particularly. Us star seeds, light workers, and chosen ones. Now, granted, they put chosen ones in quotes to their benefit, but it's really the breeding this elitist chosen one mindset, which is not a good idea. We've seen this happen in religion time and time again. The chosen ones, and then guess what? I guess we have to unalive everyone who isn't a chosen one. That's a very common theme in religion. So we don't want to have that happen, just in a different level, in a different way, in a different interpretation. And again, I'm not saying that they're implying that, but that can occur from this type of mindset. And to a lesser degree, if we're not even going that extreme, the other impact that it has is people feeling sad, like people in my chat being like, oh man, I really felt like I could never be a chosen one. And so that puts you in a state of depression. And then so you think, oh, well, it's futile to work on myself or work on the world because I'm not a chosen one. You absolutely are. If you choose it. You absolutely are. You just have to make the choice. And it's easy. Like I said, well, I mean, it's not easy. It's very difficult. But what I mean is it's not insurmountable. You can begin the process. Like I said, the very fact that you're watching this right now shows that you have the capacity to make that choice. You have the ability to make that choice if you so will. It's just about working on yourself and working on, once you reach a level where you feel confident, then helping others as well. That's what it's about. And then probably the generation that starts the evolution but does not get to see it through to the end. Yes, if you're talking about a global transformation, the institution of an entirely new Earth, that is not going to happen within this current avatar cycle that we are in. But we can begin it. We can plant the seeds. We can start it. And that's what's so important about having the Zedic perspective, because we are going to relocalize here. And so we're creating a better world for our next avataric localization. Do you see how much more positive this is when we realize, oh, hey, we're creating a new world. And even though it's not going to be completely actualized in our lifetime, we're going to have a better world when we localize because we've planted the seeds. That is infinitely better than thinking, oh, you know what? I'm just going to focus on trying to reach heaven or trying to reach nirvana or trying to ascend to the source. Because guess what? Then why should you care about this world? Why should you care about making this world better if you're just trying to reach nirvana or you're going to go to heaven or you're going to ascend to the source? This world doesn't matter then. But it does. It absolutely matters. It's our world. It's our kingdom. And the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, is us instituting that right here, right now on earth. And so we have the ability to do that right now. We have the ability to begin the process right now. Neogenian, new beginning. We have the ability to begin that process right now. And then we will have infinitely better initial conditions when we localize again to continue that process and reap the rewards, reap the fruits of the seeds that we planted. So that's why it's key to have this broader understanding of what existence is, because it has very real implications. People are like, what does this stuff matter? This is all philosophical theory. It has no impact on my life. It has every impact on your life. It dramatically changes how you live your life, what you weigh as important, what choices you make. Changes everything. Absolutely everything. And then so Spirit and Science says, perhaps the download I received is alluding to this idea of evolution, or perhaps it means something else entirely. All I know is that I wanted to share this with you as it was a massive download. So what I want to say here about Spirit and Science, I liked this article. I thought a lot of it was generally in the right ballpark. Some very important things, though, that I mentioned, that and the main one being the idea of being a chosen one. We have to get away from that mindset and realize that everyone can be a chosen one. Everyone can choose to help create a new world and help evolve their own inner being. But what I like about Spirit and Science, in addition to the fact that a lot of this was in the right ballpark, was that she's very honest about it. She's like, hey, I just received this. I'm not really sure what it means. I'm not really sure what's true. This is what I think, but I'm not sure. And she even says, it might mean something else entirely. All I would know is I wanted to share this with you as it was a massive download. And I think that's great. I think it was, ideally, we would be in a state where everyone would be examining things through logic and reason and being able to parse through what is metaphor and what is not. But I love that this person is being honest. There's a lot of New Agers that are just like, no, you know what? Jesus, the ascended master, Jesus Christ, told me that every single one of us have soul contracts. And so that's 100% true. You don't know that that's true. But if you were to be more honest about it and say, you know what? Hey, I had this experience. Here's the experience I had. Here's what I think it means, but it could mean something else. I think that's I'm not sure. I don't know. I think that that's much more intellectually honest. And I applaud Spirit and Science for being open about that. And I think we need more of that in the New Age community, more of that clarity and transparency in the New Age community, and just in general, in life in general. We should all have a lot more transparency. And so by the way, like I said, I like this article a lot. I don't agree with everything in it, but I think it's great. So, if you enjoyed it as well, make sure you go over to Spirit and Science, give them some claps, give them a follow or whatnot. So the main thing to understand here, and again, it's something that we've talked about for a long time, but I really want to emphasize this idea. Look, there's no special elitist group where you are permanently barred from or excluded from. We get whatever we put in. The more you work on raising your consciousness, the higher consciousness you will attain. The more you work towards creating a new earth, the better earth that we will have. And so we all need to stop sitting around and waiting for chosen ones to take care of it, or waiting for saviors to take care of it, and realize that we are the chosen ones if we so choose it. We are the Christs. We are the consciousness for a new world. Right here and right now. This is not a movie we're watching. This is not a fairy tale. This is not something that we are observing. We are in every way, intricately, intimately, and necessarily tied up with the process and are part of that process. So remember, you have the power to transform yourself and transform the world. And I urge you to make that choice, because a world of limitless possibility will open up before you when you begin to realize what you are, where you are, and why you're here. I hope you enjoyed this, my friends. I have a lot more videos. Go check them out on my channel. And if you enjoy my work, hey, consider becoming a member on Patreon or YouTube. When you become a member on YouTube at the Pathfinder tier, you get access to all of our members only videos. We're having a great members only video today called Science's Biggest Lie Exposed. That's going to be a really good one. Looking forward to talking about that with you all. And you get a new members only video every single week. Check out my podcast on Spotify, Dawn of the New Earth. Go give me a follow on there. My new book, Neogenesis, Dawn of the New Mind, is available right now. If you want to know how to understand reality, metaphysics, and existence and yourself in a way that's grounded in logic and reason, this is the place to start. It's available on Amazon, links in the description. And if you, do read the book, I very much appreciate a review on Amazon. It helps out a lot. It helps spread this information around. So my friends, thank you so much for joining me here today. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who supports, especially Renaissance Fairy Cassidy, Angela, the Halloween Mom, DB, Nusalina, Eric, Christopher, Luke, Thomas, Ryan, Ian, and David. Thank you very much.